staff, other committee members in the public. So if we could, let's go ahead and jump right into this because we do have some time constraints on the other side of this meeting. So let's go ahead and call this meeting to order and we'll jump right in. The first thing is the information only item. Are there any comments or questions from the committee related to those?
Not from me.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes, I just want to make a correction on number 2 with Eli Whitney Museum. It's listed as an after-school program, and I learned that it is not an after-school, it's a during-school program, and they wanted me to make that correction.
Okay, and so the information that's posted will be corrected as well?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Let's see here, pulling up the action items. Okay, so hearing and seeing nothing else related to those, we'll move right into the action items. The first is an abstract for Family Resource Center. Ms. Joseph Lumpkin?
Yes, good afternoon. I believe that Lisi Rodriguez, who is the coordinator, I think she's listed under, Lisi Rodriguez. Dr. White, if you can please promote her, thank you. The Family Resource Center's grant is an annual competitive grant that we apply for that allows us to service at 4 locations. What we like about this grant is that even though we are at those locations at Fairhaven and Throop and Wexler Grant and at Brennan, we are able to provide services to that entire catchment community. So we are able to provide family supports, particularly in the early grades. All of our site coordinators are what's called parent as teachers and are certified in that area. So they are trained to help parents think about issues that are connected to the development of their children. And we provide a range of additional services such as child development issues, attending school, connecting the families to adult education, English language learning programs for adults, and other services that would support our families in being better prepared to help their children. We also have a diaper bank located at those sites. So that allows us to provide deep, intensive support to our families, not just at those schools, but also families who are within the community and need support. We often also receive referrals from 211 to support families, given the certification and the skills of our site coordinators. And so we are excited that we again have won this grant. We do fund 1 program out of Title I, so there are actually 5 locations. This particular grant supports 4 of our 5 family resource centers. Lisi, I don't know if I captured everything there, if you had any other thing to add.
You did amazing. You did. You covered everything.
Thank you, Lisi.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, I had none either, so thank you. And we will go on ahead to the next abstract, which is the Title I Consolidated Grant. Ms. Camacho.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully everyone is having a good day. This is a continuation grant for $11,488,074. Did I say that right? I think so. Part of it is for public and part of it is for non-public. It captures 22 schools this year. We did add a school, which is Career High School, did qualify to be added to the Title I for this year. We are going to be supporting the schools through various partnerships and through supplemental payroll.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions for this one? All right, well, I had none either, so let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is an agreement with Literacy Volunteers of Greater New Haven. Ms. Benora?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I'm here representing New Haven Literacy Volunteers, and Adult Education serves, New Haven Adult Ed serves as a pass-through organization. So funding is applied for through Literacy Volunteers, granted by the State Department of Education. And then this board approves expenditures and the money passing directly to Literacy Volunteers. I hope you're all familiar with that organization. They serve adults in our community with basic educational needs as well as ESL services.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions related to this? All right, and you answered the question I had, which was just the confirmation that this is the pass-through that we've seen in the past. So
That is correct.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So hearing nothing else, we'll go on to the next one, which is a non-financial memorandum of understanding between New Haven Public Schools and the city of New Haven. Mr. Lamb and anybody else you need to bring in? Or actually, I don't see Mr. Lamb. Is there somebody that wants to speak to this item? And I'm trying to see, is there anybody?
In the audience, we have Carlos Sosa Lombardo raised his hand.
Okay.
Hello, you may speak.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I was hoping Tom Lamb was going to join us today, but I will try to do this the best I can. I believe we also have Attorney Elias here with us, who has been helping us with this agreement.
Yeah, if I can
Okay,
jump in here, please, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, please.
We were expecting Tom Lamb to present on this. And so, I mean, I am fairly well informed about it, but he will know the
All right, well,
details better.
let's do this in the interest of time. Let's go ahead and table this. I mean, just move this down on the agenda and then we can get a confirmation if he's going to be able to join us at some point.
If he's not able to join us, then I can take on the agenda item and do my best to present on this.
Yeah, understood. Agreed.
Okay, so let's maybe somebody can contact him and we'll move on and come back to this. So just in the interest of time. So we'll go ahead and move on to number 3, which is an agreement with Trifecta Ecosystems. Is Ms. Morales on?
I am. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? So this project is basically to create an outdoor learning space for our students through basically a community garden with 2 large raised garden beds that will provide an opportunity for all of our students to be engaged in hands-on learning. And then the opportunities will lead to some community engagement. So this will service approximately 700 students. And we're hoping to have the family engagement piece coordinate with it as well.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions related to this item?
Yes, I have one.
Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you for bringing this item forward. I think Trifecta has participated with other schools in the district. And if that is true, what are the reviews for what Trifecta has already provided the district, please?
So from the opportunities that I've had to speak with, especially with Trifecta and with our science supervisor, they've had some really positive feedback over at Barnard, which is mostly where I've gotten feedback from. I've heard that they've been able to really promote a lot of community engagement through the program that they started over there. And this is something that we were hoping to connect with here at Fairhaven.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, hearing no other questions, thank you. And we'll move on to the next one, which is also an agreement with Trifecta. Is Ms. Skiba here? Or is there someone else that can speak on the item? Let's see here, looking at it.
I'm trying to reach her right now.
I can
Okay,
speak on the item this
Oh,
evening.
thank you, Michelle.
okay,
So I've actually been working with Barnard on their work with outdoor gardening and garden and trifecta since Mr. McCain was there. So it's been a few years now. As part of the program and as part of the aquaponics system that is installed at Barnard, it comes with yearly maintenance and professional development for teachers. So I believe that's what this contract is for this evening, is to continue their work they have started specifically with their aquaponics system.
all right, thank you. Are there comments or questions for this one?
Just a similar question in terms of how the school is currently experienced trifecta, and what, if anything, are they looking to change, and what the provider has been doing for the district?
So I think generally, and in all the schools that I work with that deal with trifecta, the one main thing that trifecta has to support schools is that they put in, when they do the outdoor gardens or even with the aquaponic systems, they have a system that is completely underground irrigation so that the system continues to water itself, et cetera, so that the yield of what you're getting back in terms of what you're growing, et cetera, is much larger than when we're doing a regular outdoor space that might not be able to deal with the elements, et cetera. So generally, the professional development as the system continues to get better each year is an important aspect in the work that they're doing, and the fact that they work side by side with teachers on developing curriculum where the outdoor space is actually used to help with some explicit teaching of the NGSS science standards. I think it's one of the reasons why Mr. McCain, the science supervisor of the district, not to speak for him, but in conversations we have, really supports it, because it helps teachers to bridge the gap between what the regular content is in the classroom and then that experiential learning. And many of our schools have been able to use their Art Besser funds to do additional projects with them because we are funding outdoor classroom spaces as part of that grant.
Thank you. And would you happen to know whether the ongoing operational costs are something that the school is looking to take on itself? I'm just thinking about being able to maintain the cost once this particular funding source has ended.
So I do know that in a school like John Martinez, it also has the aquaponics system that Trifecta actually donated to the school free of charge. They are teaching some staff on site how to maintain it so that they can sustain it themselves. Obviously, that poses a longer term issue of like, well, what if that staff member who's trained, doesn't stay there? But they are willing to help us, as they understand that we've invested in a lot of initial grant funding up front to learn, to teach our staff in the building how to do some of the maintenance work, et cetera. Where that staff is available, which, as we know, is not across all schools. So, they are working in partnership with us on some sustainability for this.
Okay, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
And
All right.
Skiba was gonna join us as we speak, but I'll tell her she's all set. She was still busy doing bus duty. Sorry.
Yep.
Little bus
Tier
duty.
3.
Okay, thank you very much. Hearing nothing else on this, let's move on to number 5, which is an agreement with Teach for America. So Ms. Red-Hannons.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to come before the board today, Finance Committee. I do have Dr. Garcia Blocker with me today as well to present on the TFA Ignite partnership with NHPS, as well as Ms. Shakia John. And so this partnership, we're excited about. It is a new partnership, as you may be familiar with TFA, but this is different from placement of teachers in classrooms to placement of tutors. Working directly with our students through this agreement, we will partner with TFA to have 60 tutors in Brennan Rogers, Troop, as well as Wexler grants to provide high dosage tutoring to our students in particular grade levels that were determined by the principals of the school. If you ask, why did we select this particular high dosage program for our students? We had the opportunity to observe it in the Bronx. Dr. Garcia Blocker took us. We were able to see it in action. We were able to speak with the principals, speak with teachers, speak with students. The tutors work with students in a small group, no more than 4 students in the group. And there are teachers that are in our schools that are advisors. I'm not sure, Dr. Blocker, if I gave the right name, what they're called, but they help in lesson planning with the tutors as well. So I'll let Dr. Blocker talk to you more about the program.
Good morning. I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. So Teach for America has a high dosage tutoring model, as Ms. Red Hannons just said, where we recruit college students because our model is based on the research out of the Annenberg Institute at Brown University that talks about the qualities of a high dosage tutoring model. And one of the things that's really clear is our young people want near peer tutors. So in other words, they don't want me teaching them how to do division after school at the boys club. So, or any community organization. And so what is happening here is we recruit college students and we have one of our tutors on the call here in the event that you have any questions, Zakia John, to do high dosage tutoring inside of the classroom. We use the curriculum of the school so that there isn't a whole huge cognitive lift. And we have been showing results around the country. And so one of the things that we have noticed really clearly, we had a 40% increase in the number of students who are coming into the core. And a lot of it has to do with these young people who have had this experience working with students in classrooms. So we do have a young lady on the call if in the event that you have a specific question. She is Shakia John. We have recruited her to come and teach in Connecticut. She has local roots in New Haven. In fact, her grandmother taught at Troop, and she is a tutor. Unfortunately, her schedule didn't line up with the 3 schools here, but she is tutoring in New Orleans and I believe another school. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, let's see. Any comments or questions from the committee?
Yes, I have one.
Please.
Just one comment and one question. The comment is thank you for bringing this forward. And in addition to your teaching model, having this tutoring model and just kind of taking the variety of angles to try to help our students. And Ms. John, since you're on, I would love to hear any reflection you have, whether it's with working with the students or working with the curriculum that the school has. How's your experience been tutoring, and maybe how do the students, what is an approach that you take in order to connect with students to help them to learn and to improve? Please.
Hi. So yes, so unfortunately mine is not in Connecticut. So I have one that is in New Orleans and I do another one with students that is in Mississippi. And having the curriculum already planned out and knowing what I have to do does make it a lot easier to know where the student is. They give me basically what the student needs to work on each and every day. And then it's usually recorded so that, you know, if I have any questions, any concerns, I can always ask. And I have the teachers, we have like a messenger. So if I need to message her, she's in the classroom to make sure everything's working. So it's been very, I've enjoyed it a lot because it's stepping me into a different side of being in a classroom because I can't actually touch them and see them like in person. What I do to connect is on day one, we just played a game. They said that was okay. So we did a like, I've never, or would I rather do this or be that, so that when we started tutoring, I can throw those things in there. So if I know their favorite color is blue, that particular day, all of the writing was in blue. If we played a game, I make sure that it's still fun, because this, of course, is after school. So this is after they've already been in a classroom, they sit with a teacher. So I try to make it as engaging and personal as possible, especially if I'm not there in person. But overall, it's been a great experience just to be able to get started before I go into a classroom to see, you know, okay, how can I change this to adjust different things to make sure that, you know, they're still paying attention, because again, this is on a computer screen. So making sure that they are engaging. It's easy to just sit there and me to just talk, but then how am I engaging them and seeing where they are? And then after each day, I usually have to email or send a message of what we completed that day, how far they got through that lesson, so that if I have to not go to whatever it is for day 4, but I have to stay on the one for day 3, they will send me, hey, continue with this part, continue with these cards, continue doing CBC, continue doing this, so that I am meeting the child where they are. So that's all. Hope
Great.
that answers the question.
It did. Thank you very much. Thank you for, as you were talking, I think I was able to visualize how your experience goes. And thank you for explaining how you engage with the teacher to see what you're working on for that day and the following day, and even your thoughtfulness around what you do to capture a student's interest and then continue that. And Ms. Garcia Blocker, I also thank you for, I guess, the flexibility in what your program brings in terms of virtual or in-person during the school day or after school. So thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Red-Hannons.
You're welcome.
All right. So, yes, and thank you, Ms. John, for your comments. And it's good to see you, Dr. Garcia Blocker. And my one question is for Ms. Red-Hannons, and that's just in the selection process. Understanding that Teach for America, we've worked with them in the district for many years, I believe, and understanding that they're on the list of approved vendors for this with the state. Just a question, if you had talked to any other vendors. I mean, I see from the backup information, you know, all the principals of these schools are gonna have observed the program and everything. So I know that there was a selection process. My only question is just, did you confirm the pricing with other vendors in terms of the value for the service?
Yes, and we'll have, this will not be the only vendor that we'll bring forth for tutoring.
Okay.
In particular, these 3 principals really brought into the process. We saw the evidence to support their work since the pandemic began. And so a buy-in is half the process, right? And ensuring that is implemented with fidelity. The price point right now at this point, you know, I think it's going to be very similar to what we see from other companies as well as they come into the district. And we'll keep a close eye on this. What is unique about this process in particular is the college students. When I had the opportunity to observe the process in action, it was the connections. The students were excited on the possibility of attending college, seeing students, college students that look like them was also very helpful as well. And quite honestly, I'll be honest, I'm going to try to use it as a recruitment tool for New Haven for folks that are becoming familiar with our curriculum. But you will see other tutoring organizations come forth as well.
Okay, and so I'm comfortable sending this on to the full board, and I'm in support of this. My recommendation to you would be to contact 1 or 2 of the other vendors and just kind of have those, since you're going to be talking to them anyways, having an exploratory conversation around pricing, just because I'm guessing you're going to get a question about this on Monday night, and it'd be good to have an answer for that.
Okay, no problem.
All right, any other comments or questions?
Yes, just want to acknowledge Dr. Blocker. I apologize.
All right.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. So we'll move on to the next item, which is an agreement with Elm City Montessori. Ms. Bonanno.
Yes, so this is the annual agreement with the Elm City Montessori that covers the cash portion of what the New Haven Public Schools will pay directly to Elm City Montessori LLC. So this is an increase in their overall budget from last year. Their full budget that the New Haven Public Schools is covering this year is $4,540,428 for 306 students. The overall increase from last year to this year in their total budget, it was $365,928. And the cash increase, so a portion of their budget is in kind, the other portion is cash. So the increase into their cash, on-site cash was $249,432. The increase is due to the fact that every year the state of Connecticut sets the per pupil for Elm City Montessori, and they base that on New Haven Public Schools' prior year median per pupil. So they take the middle of the road, all of our schools combined, and they assign that to be their following year. So they're always 1 year behind our per pupil as that. So it went from in 2022-23 from $13,915 per student to $14,838 per student for this year. And so the overall enrollment increased from 300 students last year to 306 students this year, but it still gave them an additional $365,000 and some change in their operations for this year.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions related to this?
Yes.
Dr.
Sure.
Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you for bringing this forward. My request is just to put some of the details in writing. So maybe I'll update the document that's already on the website or some kind of way so we can know pretty much precisely what you said, how the numbers differ and are similar from last year and where the investment is going. And also even maybe a description around how this relationship works in terms of us paying and reimbursements. So just a request.
Sure. And I do want to clarify for the record that we have no control over the investment. So per statute, we have to give them their per pupil. And that is broken out in kind and then cash. Once the cash goes is paid from the New Haven Public Schools to Elm City Montessori LLC, their board has full authority over how that money is reinvested back into their program. The New Haven Public Schools does not have jurisdiction over that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But I'll make sure that that's specified as well in the memo.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And you answered the questions that I had. And I think a memo or something that just kind of captures some of the information you just presented would be great and might save us time in next Monday's board meeting.
You got it.
All right, thank you very much. Hearing nothing else on this, we'll move into purchase orders. The first one is Fulcrum Management Solutions. Ms. Red-Hannons?
Yes, and Dr. White is bringing in Mr. James Haga for this. So this partnership with Fulcrum Management is really targeted at improving communication with all stakeholders. This is a two-way engagement platform where the leaders of the organization, meaning our NHPS, can put out what is called a thought or a question to our community and hear their responses. You're able to access it via your phone, your computer, whatever device you have. Click on the link and able to respond to the question. And behind the responses are analytics being done to see what responses rise to the top. So for example, and then I'll turn it over to James, we may want to ask, what should be our budget priorities for the year? And we can send that out to our teachers, our principals, the community members. The responses will then be recorded online, and you may give be able to rate somebody's response with 5 stars because you agree to their response, or give it 1 star. And then behind the scene analytics are being done to determine what the community feels like should be our priorities. With that said, if you allow just a real quick, about 3-minute presentation, we could tell you a little bit more in depth about thought exchange and then be able to take questions. And so I'll share. Can you see my, let me see.
Yes, I can see it.
Yes.
Can you, not the, let me stop share. I want you to see the PDF, not the, still coming up. Let me go to desktop 2. Maybe it comes up this way. No, can you see the black screen or you're seeing?
Yeah, we saw the black screen. I think it was the PDF.
Right here, you can see it now?
Now we
No,
don't. Now we're looking at a document 8.
I don't want that document. Let me see. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
James? Okay, go ahead. All right, James.
Great. Thank you so much for that bit of framing, Keisha. And I think you did a wonderful job of saying, in essence, what this is. I'll just add a few other pieces. So in short, Thought Exchange is a comprehensive community engagement platform that allows you to gather both qualitative and quantitative data, and then to have robust, immediate analysis that is essentially powered by AI that is helping to generate insight into where, are there areas of common ground? Where are there areas of polarization within a conversation? What are some of the key themes and categories of thought that are emerging from within whatever engagement you're having? The tool is able to be used both in live as well as asynchronous context. So the idea here is whenever you need richer, more nuanced data that is really grounded in the voice of the people that you want to hear from, the authentic voice of the people that you want to hear from, Thought Exchange is an effective mechanism to use to then have that scaled conversation. So think of it as almost akin to what happens when you gather a group of people together in a town hall or a focus group and you have a conversation. Thought Exchange is essentially the digital mechanism to do that. And it's designed to allow people to participate from wherever they are at whatever time. And the idea there is to lower the barrier to entry to ensure that you're able to maximize the number of voices that you're hearing from. What is distinct in a Thought Exchange from perhaps a traditional survey is that you're always starting that engagement from a place of one high level core question, right? So, as we think about the school year ahead, what are some of the most important things that we need to do to prioritize the well-being of our students? And you're inviting people to share their thoughts in their own words. You're also inviting them to then rate the thoughts of others. So there's an immediate transparency. Folks are able to see and interact with the thoughts of other people and to give those thoughts a star rating depending on the extent to which they feel alignment to that perspective. And then lastly, the data and the results of the conversation are revealed to them in real time so that they can see how is their perspective resonating across the entire group or the entire community of hundreds or thousands of people who are actively participating in the conversation. So there's an immediate amount of transparency to see what is truly resonating across the group, rather than just what is it that I hold to be very critical and important. And that's the main differentiator, is it's really about giving people the opportunity to get exposure to one another's thoughts in a highly organized and safe and unbiased way. The process is completely anonymous, so as to emphasize that the focus is squarely on the content of ideas rather than on personalities or power dynamics or social dynamics that can otherwise end up influencing the way that people receive one another's ideas and perspectives. And in a few minutes time, you're able to hear from thousands of people in a collaborative way, where the participants are essentially giving you a sense of what are the issues and ideas and perspectives that are most important, where there's the highest degree of alignment across any number of people, whether it's 20 people or it's 20,000 people. You can use it in any of those different kinds of contexts.
All right, thank you for the presentations. Are there any comments or questions related to this?
Yes, I have a question.
All right, please.
Thank you. Thank you also for the presentation. For this kind of software or engagement platform, Mr. Haga, how will your personnel help the district to on the front end in terms of engagement and requesting the input? So we can put a survey out there, people may or may not receive it, click on it. What tools do you have, or what strategies do you have for us to increase our yield?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll just say quickly, we work with close to 800 school districts across the country. Each of our district partnerships essentially includes a dedicated engagement coach. That person is there to be your trainer for any of your key organizational leaders who are looking to hear more authentic voice from the community or from staff or from other key stakeholders. And those people work every day, all day with school districts to help enable and maximize the way in which they're able to gather genuine feedback. And they're there to help guide you with things like what's the right way to frame the question, because obviously that is probably the most important thing to get right, is how are you asking what it is that you're asking, and what are you then going to do to demonstrate that you're utilizing that information in a way that builds trust. And then we have a whole series of strategies for how you can push this out. Essentially, within the software itself, you generate a link or a QR code. And then whatever different mechanisms you use, whether it's social media or your internal information student management system or your website or newsletters, these are all different ways that you can essentially push out the invitation. And we would work with you in a tailored fashion, depending on what the particular engagement is and the group of stakeholders that you're looking to hear from, would influence the strategy around how we would try to then bring in as many voices. I will say that there's something slightly addictive about it because people get to see one another's thoughts. And so I think that is frankly rewarding for people because there's more transparency than what they're accustomed to in a traditional survey, where often you're not able to see results and you have no real idea of how different people are weighing in and what the relevancy of the data are. So in Thought Exchange, that's all built into the participation experience, which I think helps to build a sense of fairness in the process as well. And we see it as iterative over time. Your ability to use the tool at different stages throughout the year is in and of itself trust building, because people see that you keep coming back and inquiring as to what their perspectives and their input are.
Thank you. And will your data analytics allow us to see whether either to verify entries or to see whether one person is making multiple entries and consolidate that information?
Yes. In short, the answer is yes. There is also a whole host of different moderation features within the tool. So if somebody, for instance, is trying to copy and paste and put a perspective in multiple times, the software catches things like that and can remove those thoughts. The same goes for if somebody uses foul language, the software is trained to identify those thoughts and remove them before they are able to be taken into the public process. And yeah, you can have unique participation links for your exchanges as well.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing this forward.
All right, thank you very much. I had just two questions. One is, Ms. Red-Hannons, is the intention for this to use this in all sorts of different ways, or is it for with staff or with parents, or do you have targeted groups that you all are planning to begin with? Or
the intention is for us to reach as many stakeholders as possible based upon the question that we have that we want to put out. Of course, the superintendent will be the person to direct who the constituents would be for a particular thought that we will share.
all right, I see Dr. Negron, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I did. I think it'll be a tool that is going to come in readily accessible when we go through the process of building our new district strategic plan, because I want to make sure that we're engaging as many folks as possible. So I think this tool is going to be extremely beneficial in that process.
Yeah, I was going to suggest just that just that process, because it'd be a way to bring in an awful lot of people. It also would have been helpful if we had something like this when we had the bringing in the stakeholder voices for the ESSER spending priorities, where you were dealing with several thousand people, stakeholders.
Yes.
Get information. My final question is just a little detailed one, and it's I'm not familiar with the interlocal purchasing system. And my only question is, can we just get confirmation that that satisfies the City of New Haven's purchasing department's requirements for vendor selection? Like, I don't know if it's similar to under a state contract. So if we could just get a confirmation on that.
Pat, do you want to respond? Or I can, if you.
Well, they suggested that we utilize that process. If
And we have an email from Melinda on the city side that also authorized us utilizing the interlocal purchasing system, also known as TIPS. And it says that it satisfies the public procurement requirement for purchase over $10,000, which is the city ordinance threshold. So we do have that in writing. I don't know if it would be helpful, Mr. Wilcox, maybe if we add that email to the agreement that goes forward to the board.
It doesn't hurt, you know, to have the backup information be complete. So I would recommend that.
Okay.
Just because it'll answer the question, and it is a newer thing, and it also might, you know, yield some really interesting. I don't know how extensive this is. It seems to be, the brief looking I had done with it does seem to be like an extensive thing. So maybe that'll be useful moving forward. So it might not be the last time we see this.
Yes, I anticipate that.
All right. Well, hearing nothing else on this, thank you very much for the presentation and the information, and we'll move on to the next thing, which is, I believe, an agreement with Frontline. And this is Ms. Flegler.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. Yes, this is a purchase order for Frontline Technologies. This is a contract renewal for the applicant tracking platform, which we utilize for all applicants who apply for full-time positions with the district. And also also oversees the absence and substitute management system, which is how we manage all our substitute, require our subs, and also for the teaching staff to create their absences as well. So this platform has been in place for some time now. And I know a question was asked about, have we sought out any other vendors? And I will say that not recently, but in 2020, we did expand our partnership with Frontline Education, adding on Frontline Central Solutions and Recruitment and Hire, which we now use for HR uses for their virtual onboarding. We send out virtual packets to all our full-time employees. So this is the contract renewal for part of the platform, which is the applicant tracking and absence management for substitute teachers.
Okay, are there comments or questions? So my question would be, this is will there be another part that we see moving at some other time?
So there is one other piece of Frontline Central Solution. There's one last installment for 2024, because this was the Frontline Central and Recruitment and Rehiring Solutions was implemented in 2020. So you will see that our last installment for that renewal, and we haven't gotten that purchase order yet, but this is an annual renewal contract for the fees that we pay to have this to maintenance for the annual fee. And it's round, but there's a slight increase from last year of $4,900, a little close to $5,000 increase annually, but it is an unlimited usage for again, applicant tracking, as well as uses for internal employees. So we can have all our employees on this platform if we decided to do that at any point, because it is an unlimited usage.
Okay, and so my final question is, do you anticipate at some point taking a look at other options for this type of thing? Understanding that this sounds pretty fundamental for the onboarding process.
Absolutely, we certainly can, but I will caution the board and the district that there's other features that we use for Frontline. There's the IEP that is the special ed component that is under Frontline as well. And so, but we certainly can look at other vendors, because we have partnered or have been in partnership with Frontline since its inception in 2012. So we've just been expanding since that, from 2012 until where we are today. But we can certainly look at other vendors to see if we're still getting the best bang for our dollars.
I think that would be good for next time around. And I mean, it's certainly something I see looking at other districts' websites that they're also using Frontline. Looks like was it Applitrack?
Yep.
So you know, does seem to be some pretty standard stuff, but
what's helpful, and what we do know, that Frontline you can use cross districts. So even though we have applicants that apply for positions in New Haven, they can apply in another district, and we can upload from other districts as well, other neighboring school district. So it's an easier onboarding experience for our employees that we onboard that come in from outside the district.
okay. Yeah, we do want to make it easy for them to apply here. Come here. So, okay. Hearing no other questions on this. Let's move into the contracts. First one's with New Haven Pictograph. Mr. Elaine? Or anybody? Let's see here. So this is the awarding of the contract. This was done by sealed bid. This was the lowest bidder based on the information. Dr. Yarbrough, did you have any questions on this item?
I did. I think this is the one. My questions were, have we used this contractor before in this role district-wide? And then how did our most recent contractor for board meetings perform in this role? So I think like we previously had a setup specifically for board meetings and we were paying someone. So I'm curious how they performed in that role. And then for this particular company, have we used them before district-wide? And then the last thing is, in terms of the scope of work, there was one page, the last page it looks like was missing from what was scanned in.
The only thing I could add to the conversation is the vendor had previously worked for us up until a year ago. And then we didn't have any vendor for the previous year. Then I get in terms of doing meetings and programming and the sports and other events. So he has worked for us before. And then there wasn't a contract for last year. That's the only thing I can add to the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so would you like the answers to your questions sent to you and the rest of the committee, Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, they can be. I don't know that they're critical, but I'm interested in the answer, but they're not critical questions.
Okay, so I request that those questions get answered and sent to the full committee by Friday afternoon. Just for completeness sake, if for nothing else, and to make sure that there's no problems or issues. It doesn't sound like there will be, but just to make sure. Does that satisfy you, Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to award a contract with Encore Fire Protection. Mr. Young.
Good afternoon. This contract with Encore is for our fire suppression testing and inspections. This is something that's done yearly in all of our school cafeterias.
Okay, comments or questions?
Yes, please.
Dr. Yarbrough?
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Young. I think I read in the paperwork that this contract is not a renewal, but that we have used this contractor before. And my main question is just what is the cost change, if any?
This was just a formulation where we are not, it's not in regards as a price change. From my recollection, I'll have to go back and look at that from last year, but I can definitely look that information up and get it for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So my interpretation of the backup paperwork on the first page.
Oh, I see the
is that
previous
the
history.
amount is a not to exceed 50,000, which I'm assuming is what we've done in the past, and then the payment amount is that's listed as what the actual amounts were.
Correct.
So my interpretation of this is that last year we probably would have had a payment, a not to exceed for up to 50,000, but the district only utilized $22,268 worth. And so the unused money would not have, wasn't invoiced, wasn't spent. So that's my interpretation of that, Dr. Yarborough.
I see that now. Thank you. That helps me.
And my question is just simply, when was the last time we sought other vendors for this service? It was unclear. Understanding this is a new award, but was there a new request for proposals or?
Well, there was a request that was sent out. However, Encore was the only one that responded.
Okay, so the only one that responded. Thank you. All right. Well, let's go on to the next one, which is an award of the contract with Precision Food Service.
Precision Food Services is for our oven repairs in all of our school cafeterias.
Okay. And so this was, vendor was chosen, one respondent, and this was an RFP.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Comments or questions, Dr. Yarborough? All right. I had no others. So let's go ahead and move on to the contract award for Fresh Point.
The award for Fresh Point is for our fresh fruit and vegetable program. This is a program that's funded through the state. So there's 6 sites that are selected. Those 6 sites are Hill Central, Truman, Booker T. Washington, and Hamden, Fairhaven, Fame, and John C. Daniels. And basically the goal is we basically provide them with fresh fruit and vegetables 2 times a week throughout the school year.
All right. And I'll note this was a award from an RFP with 2 vendors that have applied. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, let's drop back and pick up the memorandum of understanding with the city of New Haven. So I don't know if Mr. Lamb, doesn't look like he was able to join us. Attorney Alexiadis.
Good afternoon, committee members and attendees. I spoke with Mr. Lamb, who is attending to other urgent business, not a life safety emergency, but he's unable to join us because he's engaged in other unexpected school business. So I will give you the background. And city, our colleagues on the city side, including Mr. Sosa Lombardo, are here to answer, present further and answer any questions you may have. So this is an agreement that I drafted, working with Mr. Lamb and others on our end, well, primarily Mr. Lamb. And then folks on the city side, because of the city's need to provide services to persons experiencing homelessness, and in particular the need for warming centers over the cold winter months. And that somewhere, and then part of this process, and I believe the superintendent is involved also, that the old Strong School at 130 Orchard Street, the gymnasium there was identified as a suitable location. So I was tasked with drafting a memorandum of understanding, which is circulated among the committee members by last week, and the last version on Friday, and posted online today. And Mr. Lamb and his operations team are readying the premises in contemplation of a November 1st effective date for the MOU, and occupancy beginning sometime thereafter. But the city staff and the city contractor that will be engaged to manage this part of the facility and this program will have access November 1st to do what they need to do to prepare for the guests and for the cold weather. The things that are on that the operations team is addressing are should not involve additional expenses on our end. It is items that we are that the Board of Ed is responsible for anyways and would need to do anyways. For example, making sure the doors are operational and locking and patching a couple of roof leaks in the gymnasium and just cleaning up and securing the premises. At the moment, it's being there is some storage there, and in the other parts of the building that are not subject to the MOU, city staff is maintaining. I'm not city staff. Board of Ed staff is maintaining offices there. So we had a walkthrough on Friday afternoon to inspect the premises with Mr. Lamb, his facilities person, and persons from the on the city side and their contractor. With that, I would suggest that Mr. Sosa Lombarda be admitted to the room if he's not, because I think he's there as an attendee, be admitted to the room so that he can present details about the program. And I would note that Eliza Halsey is also attending and is available if in the event that she needs to answer any questions. Thank you.
That sounds great. I'll just request that the information is succinct, as just noticed the time and we have a hard stop coming up.
Thank you, sir. I'll do my best. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present today. My name is Carlos Sosa. I'm the Executive Director of the Department of Community Resilience. One of my jobs is to oversee services tailored to our in-house community members. As you all may be aware, we have a housing crisis across the nation. We're seeing the impact in our city as well. We're seeing an increased number of house community members, and that's why we're here today. I'm here today because we would like to enter an MOU with the Board of Education. As Attorney Laya mentioned, we are proposing to establish a warming center at 130 Orchard Street to support on-house community members. Access to the warming center will only be from the entrance on the parking lot on Legion Avenue on the side of the building. This requirement is intended to maintain both security of the building and to minimize activity on residential side streets. We will identify and contract with a service provider who will have sufficient staff members to ensure that access is limited to the designated warming center areas, so that people do not go around the building in areas where they're not supposed to be. Our contractor will also make sure that the area is kept clean and tidy. There will be no litter, trash, and drug paraphernalia, etc., accumulated at the entrance or to the building or around the building or even in the walkways and neighborhood. And to keep all interior and exterior areas clean, we will also work with our providers on that. We will make sure that people are not smoking in the building, and that they are respectful of not using drugs in the premises as well. And I just want to also acknowledge that we have our community services administrator, Eliza Halsey, with us, in case she wants to add anything.
Good evening, everyone. I would just add that Carlos and his team have been doing this work for a number of years and really have good relationships with our contractors and are eager to partner with the Board of Ed on this. As he described, it's a critical need, and we appreciate the Board of Ed support in meeting that need for our community.
All right, thank you. I'll just add before I open it up for questions, because I was part of an earlier meeting when this was first discussed, and that's part of the reason for the MOU, was to make it just very clear a couple things like who's responsible for what, to make sure that the board is not incurring extra costs for this, and making sure that the costs that we are spending are appropriate. So as was already mentioned, making sure the lights are working, which we need to make sure the lights are working in our buildings. So that's the purpose of that MOU, was to make some of that very clear, and also very clear on the time frame that we're talking about. So open it up. Are there any comments or questions?
None for me. Thank you for arranging this.
All right, I see Ms. Hannon's, your hand.
My only concern would be if there are any additional costs that will be incurred by the board. So I follow your lead, Mr. Wilcox, in seeing the MOU to see actually what is spelled out in the MOU.
So my request would be this week is the next day or two probably is the last chance on the board side, I mean, before this goes in front of the full board. If there's problems or issues or things that staff think needs to be clarified, now that more people are seeing this, now would be the time to make sure that those details or get those questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
Attorney Alexiadis?
Yes, if there's additional language or clarification that the committee members or staff feels is appropriate, please contact me, and we can address those concerns. As far as I know, any fiscal impact on the Board of Ed would be incidental, and things that we need to do already.
All right, thank you. Is your hand still up, Ms. Hannons?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say too, I haven't seen the MOU, so until I see the MOU, I may have additional questions, but if someone could share it with me in its entirety, then I could adequately answer any request any additional information.
Yes, it's posted as backup information for this item on the agenda, on the list of action items.
Okay.
So it is posted.
I'll send it shortly.
Okay.
Thanks.
So you'll have it twice.
Thank you.
All right. Any comments or questions related to this? Anything else? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. And that is, I move that we send to the board with a recommendation to approve these 2 abstracts, 6 agreements, 2 purchase orders, and 4 contracts.
I second.
It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So, let's see here. So that moves on. Looking at the discussion items, nothing to, I'm just going to jump around on these. Since we're going to have a hard stop in about, I don't know, 12 minutes. Series 3000 policies, we're still looking at the information security one, and I think we're trying to set up a meeting for a page turning exercise. The F&O climate change resolution items, we can move to a different meeting. There is some great things to report that Mr. Lamb had talked about at the food service related, the food service task force. So there might be something posted there with those meeting minutes, but we'll move that to another one when he's available. And then there was the hiring of the update and timeline, hiring of 3 positions under the MOU with the city. I was wondering if we could get a quick update on that and then hear the financial reports.
Sure, I can give an update on the 3 positions if you like. Is that okay, Ms. Linda? Yeah, okay. So the first position, the procurement coordinator, that position has been sent to the civil service testing position. I think you guys know this already. And it is sent out for testing. It is awaiting to be returned. The due date for it to be returned is October 18th. Once it's returned, the city's HR department has to review and rank the eligible candidates once they have, again, received the test back. Once the tests have been reviewed and ranked, then it has to go before the Civil Service Board. Their board meetings are typically held the 4th Wednesday of each month, unless there is a special meeting. And when I spoke last to Michael Gormley, he mentioned that there should be one the end of October. Don't know if it'll make that one because the due date is October 18th for having the test returned. But if not, there may be a special meeting the mid-November. And so once this has been approved, the list has been certified, and then the department has Ms. Linda or along with Michael Gormley can start scheduling the interviews and begin to hire any eligible candidates from the ranked and certified list. With regards to the labor staff attorney, there's only 1 applicant on the eligible list, and he is scheduled to be interviewed on Wednesday, October 18th. And so again, because there's only 1 applicant, hope that it deems a good fit, and then we can move forward to extending an offer with the hopes of that person will accept. If it's not a good fit, we will have to start this process over again as far as a testing and gathering a larger pool, casting a wider net. And last, certainly not least, is the bilingual examiner. That is a civil service tested position as well. Although there is someone currently doing that role here in the district, it is a brand new position because this position it's something that we're creating new because there's a need because of the number of students that are required testing. And so it is civil service test as well. The job description is in draft format. It has to be not only approved by the city's HR department, also by the union and labor. And so it's in the embryonic stages of developing it, going into a permanent position. There was some concern initially of changing the job description, although talking with the director of multilingual, we just, share with him that it had already been approved by the budget. To move in a different direction this time will probably extend the process even longer. So because it's already approved, it's gonna move, hopefully we can move forward in getting this tested, and the testing is going to be a training experience as well, so that will cut off some of the time it will take as far as the traditional process of going through the civil service testing process. So we're hoping to have the draft approved by mid-November and then move on to ranking the candidates to see who apply, post the position and see who applies, and then we can look to start screening and just determining how we proceed, how we issue the test, and that's hopeful we'll get that done. Well, hopeful in collaboration with the city HR department, we can have a better timeline by the mid-November of what that will look like as far as potential candidate pool. And those are the 3 updates that I have for the 3 positions. I don't have any.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? My quick question was just a confirmation that, like, using the bilingual examiner as an example, we're not incurring costs for these until somebody's in the position.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Nope, no cost.
So for something that's taking a while because of the exam process and all that, we're not going to incur these costs until we
Actually,
have somebody withdrawn.
right, onboard someone. That is correct.
Thank you. That was my one
You're
question.
welcome.
All right, hearing nothing else on this, let's see if we can fit in the September 23 financial report. And my suggestion, Ms. Hannons, would be the final item, the 2024 budget deficit mitigation progress can wait until next meeting if
Okay,
we're short on time.
okay, got it. Okay, so the report that I'm presenting today is for the September 30th finance report, which is the first quarter of the fiscal year. And this, of course, is our strategic plan, which covers every report that we do. We make sure that we include this in the plan to let you know where we're going. So the monthly financial reports that we'll be having will be one, which is general funds, which will be September the 30th. So far we spent 22 million or 10.8% of the adopted budget, and special fund expenditures incurred through 9/30 are 16 million or 2% of the current budget. Financial report for general funds is here, and you could see that. Can you see it? It's cut off on mine, but we're projecting these are the expenditures thus far through September the 30th. So we're projecting so far our deficit is projected at 4.8 if you round it off, and that is a work in progress. The big cost drivers were again the transportation cost and the everything else was basically consistent. We are showing a little bit over in some categories, but we do have some reimbursements that will be coming in. So these numbers will be reflected. The adjustment will be reflected as we go through the reports. Again, this is just the first quarter. So in here, it basically is tells you how to read the slides, the monthly financial report and the forecast report. And then here is the breakdown of the financial expenditures that summarize the report that you saw earlier. And again, this is a moving target. This is based on historical data and data that we have thus far. So where you see balances in some lines, those lines will be adjusted as we, add encumbrances and other expenses to the budget, which seem to be coming just about constantly now. And as you're seeing these items that are going through on the agenda, those items have to be included to the financial reports as well. So changes from the previous report, well, of course, that was a small report because that was just summer with basically no payrolls in there. So we're looking at overtime, with the custodians and security. Hopefully those numbers will start going down now that most of the need was done in the summer months. We have shared that report with Tom, and he is going to work with his team to see where the need actually is and where he can start cutting costs. With the non-personnel costs, a lot of the funds that we have, we've been trying to spend ESSER down. So wherever we have where the school can use the ESSER funds, we ask them to use those funds before they actually start using their general funds. With tuition, we're continuing to monitor and collect fees and reimbursement. We still don't have a good handle on that, but we're working diligently to, I guess there are some cases where the lawyers are involved. But we are working on those lines as well. And we continue to monitor our changes in the utility costs. Last year, I think we were saved. We had a good year. So we don't know what this winter is going to bring. So we're at, right now we're just looking at the costs and trying to project out hopefully that we won't have a couple of snowstorms. We have put a few dollars in just in case, but we may be able to move those around. With our mitigation efforts, I can go through real quick if you want me to, Mr. Wilcox, or you want me to hold off on that?
If you think you can do it in a couple minutes, sure.
Okay, all right. So basically, we're using many of the same mitigation costs, that strategies that we used last year. They seem to work very well. And so we're again reprogramming unspent grant funds to cover needs wherever we can. We meet with the folks when they do their abstracts to make sure that their abstracts that are when they're writing these grants coincide with what the district is trying to work on and do. We're continuing to we were trying to do a survey with the comparable districts on their tuition reimbursements, but we kind of hit a brick wall on that. No one was willing to share that. So we're going to have to try some other strategies to try to get our to see if our tuition costs are comparable to other districts. And then of course, we're still using the ARP ESSER funds to cover the cost through the extension of the paras working as substitutes, our bus monitors, our cleaning cost, and increased cleaning costs if folks, COVID or whatever rises again to that level, and then custodial and security overtime due to things beyond our control. We're looking at all expenditures and budget lines to see what we can make further costs that do not affect the students, as well as exploring other sources of non-restrictive revenue. As the remaining funds will sunset in September of 24, we need to start looking at decisions now on what we're going to do this fiscal year to reduce the burden and the hit for next fiscal year. So we're basically going to be looking at building uses and overtime costs, school enrollment, and numbers and class sizes, and then maybe even looking at summer school programs and part-time staff to see what we can adequately fund this summer and next. There's still unknowns, as I mentioned before: utility, unemployment costs, retirement payouts, increases due to negotiated and pending union contracts. I think we don't have that many left. And then snow removal costs if we have a storm, and then of course the litigation cost. And there's then just my little disclaimer, which says again every year, they're based on the data is based on a snapshot in time and using historical data and current encumbrances and things beyond our control. But we monitor and we closely will continue to make changes to the budget as issues arise. Financial report for September, real quick. Right now we're at 90.5 million. With the grants, we've spent 16 thus far. We've encumbered 22.7, and we have available 51.1. And again, this is just our little cheat sheet to how to read the financial report. So if you have any questions, this can help you. What column is what? Right now, we're showing that the 22-23 funding was at 181.3, and now we're carrying over 61, which is just about a third of that. And then so far we received 28 million in funding, and there are a lot of grants that are still outstanding. So we're still looking for Perkins Title I, and all of the grants that have been asked for but have not come in yet. And you can see our anticipated funding will be 70.7 million. Now, totally, we're working at 132. So if you look across, that's a big difference from what we had previously. So as you can see, the expenditure, the available funds and the grants are starting to take a turn where we need to start looking at how we are going to continue some of the programs that we have put in place. And we will be working with cabinet and the executive team to be making some really hard decisions on where we need to go. I think it's good if we do that, start doing that now for this fiscal year. So I think I probably said it before, so that the hit won't be as hard for next fiscal year. So we're starting a lot of work this fiscal year, not to scare anybody or anything, but we need to make some really hard decisions on where we are going. Did I make it?
Yeah, you did. Any
Yeah,
comments?
2 minutes to spare.
Any comments or questions? I'll just say, if I recall correctly, when we hired a grant writer, the grant writer paid for herself through her efforts, and maybe that's something that also, in terms of cost cutting, is offsetting it with new revenue from grants, and it certainly seems like academic related, but also we have a whole host of facilities related things too, that having people that could specialize in that might be very helpful.
Correct. I was thinking about that as well and trying to see whether, because we had the position before, it wouldn't be a new position, so we would be able probably to post and hire or hire a firm. I think we need to look at both areas to see what would serve us better.
I highly think that's a great idea. I mean, having worked at Yale, there's an institution that runs in the medical side, they run on this stuff. It does require some people in place, but they do tend to pay for themselves after the first year. And I do think also we have facilities needs as well. I was just thinking, I keep thinking about equipment for theaters, drama equipment, things like that, which be really helpful in the schools, but are not as pressing maybe as leaking roofs. But there might be some funds available from non-traditional sources because it's for performing arts and student connection, et cetera. But that takes people to pull together
Correct.
those things with foundations or companies and granting agencies. We're out of time. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I second it. How do you vote?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, very much.
Thank you, everyone.